in the
Sure,
middle.
absolutely.
But just during that season to where you're waiting while it's hard, are there any habits or routines that you've done in that season while you wait for it to get better? Like praying
Oh,
or
absolutely. Prayer, absolutely. And once God begins to show you a strategy, you continue to work the strategy, even if it don't make sense. Because when I was going through the struggle and I was praying, I was like, God, what am I supposed to do? Now, God, I've given you the 10th. What's next? And he would tell me something like, go pay $50 on your light bill. Wait, Lord, the light bill ain't due yet. Wait, hold, time out, sir. This light bill is not due yet. He said, well, the lights are on. You know the bill is coming.
uh-huh.
I was like, okay, because it didn't make sense to me. And then he would say, okay, go pay $20 on your water bill. I'm like, God, you got me paying all these bills that are not even due. I need to hold on. No, why? No, you don't. That kind of stuff. Because when I say I trusted him with all of it, because yes, I gave him the 10, but then when I trusted him with the 90, but then the instructions he was giving me for the 90 just didn't make sense to me. But I had to realize that his way was better because my way sure had not come to nothing. So for 3, 4, and 5, he would have me do that, and I said, God, this makes no sense. But God, I trust you, and I realized when I was going through, it was a trust. It was a trust issue. It was a trust, and I said, God, it doesn't make sense, but I trust you. What I learned is that a lot of things that the Lord instructed me to do didn't make sense, but it made a difference. And you can't see the difference it made initially. But when I got to the end, when I stopped getting disconnect notices, when I started getting my bills and it said I had a $20 credit, I was like, nah, I know. Yeah, he said, and one thing he said, listen, the bills are there, pay them. Before that, they're coming. He said, what you have to learn how to do is you got to learn how to get in front of your bills. You've been behind your bills all your life. Get in front. You're supposed to be the head and not the tail. You're supposed to be above and not beneath. You're out of position. He said, what I'm trying to do is to teach you how to get in position. Yes, sir. And I started doing that. And to this day, Josh, I still do that. I still do it. I tell people my bill collect, they get so frustrated with me because they have to send me bills that say zero. I won't go paperless because I like to get those statements that say I don't owe anything. So,
Why
but it's,
so they could pray on you during those times? Like if the bill's not paid? Like basically like will they like threaten to send it to collections and all
well,
those
we
things?
never get to that.
Oh,
What I'm
okay,
saying
okay,
is,
okay.
since they know, since all of my bills, I pay them before they're due, they want me to go paperless so they don't have to spend that money to cut the tree down to make the bill to send
Oh,
that to
oh,
me
got you,
just to
got you.
say I
Okay,
have
that's
a
what you
zero
meant.
balance.
Got you,
But
got
I'm
you.
like, no, I want that bill to see that zero on it because that's for me. It's like I did this. I'm me and God. We're doing this. We're doing this. But when I was doing it initially, it made no sense, and I was like, God, this doesn't feel right. He said, yeah, that's the problem. You've been moving off of feeling. You have been moving off faith. I'm going to stretch your faith. I'm going to strengthen your faith. Trust me in this. Just trust me. And I did. And like I said, here I am some 15 years later, and I'm still working the same plan that God gave me when I was in debt. I'm no longer in debt, and I'm still working the same plan. Because one thing I tell people is that I may not have a lot of money, but I got a lot of wisdom, and you can't take the knowledge that God has given me. And so but it was a painful it
Mm-hmm.
was a painful process, as you say, not being able to go places. And I talk about, who got money to eat out, who got money to take trips and do all that stuff, because it was a sacrifice. I mean, it
It's
was
probably mentally exhausting too.
very, it was
Because you're
mentally, it was,
juggling, you're
yeah,
tired, especially
all of
for a
that.
long period of
and
time.
and and for me, I was single and a single mother, and there was not any more income. My income was
It
it.
was you.
That was it. And so I look back and see how far God brought me with so little. And that's when I realized it was a God move. That's why, excuse me, even now that I have a little more, I still remember from whence I came. And I know that's why I tithe. That I know it was God. There's the things that I was able to do, it was only because of God.
You talked about the struggle intensifying during that period.
Yeah.
Did you already cover that, or you haven't even touched on that yet? Oh, let's talk about that.
There was a time when in the midst of this process to where it just intensified. I was doing everything that I thought I was supposed to be doing, and it just didn't look like it was getting better. I had bought bicycles for my son and I for Christmas, which was in December. By February,
You had to
I
sell
had
it.
to sell mine for bills. And then around April, I had to pawn his for gas and groceries. And so when I pawned his, I had all intention of going
Buying
back
it
to
back,
get it.
yeah.
But in the back of my mind, I knew I wasn't going to go back and get it. And so I remember just feeling like an absolute failure. I'm like, God, this can't be it. I'm doing what you tell me to do. This is ridiculous. And I remember driving in my car, and there was a couple that I used to go and talk to, all the time. Because another thing is when you're in ministry and when you're in the forefront, everybody can't handle your weaknesses because they always expect you to be strong. And so I kept a lot of stuff in, but there was a couple that I would go and talk to all the time. And I went to their house and they weren't home. And so I was like, okay, now what? It was right after I left the pawn shop, and I was driving around this curve, and it was these trees that was around this curve. And I said, you know what? Let's just head right into one of them trees. Because at this point, I can't provide for myself. I can't provide for my son. Why am I here? And suicide seemed to be it. I did not want to be here. I did not, and was saved and was preaching. So this wasn't just, saved and preaching
So you
and going
knew
like this.
exactly what the decision you were
Absolutely.
going to make.
Again, decision. There's a difference between a mistake and a decision. I had made the decision to take my life. And I tell people, when your finances are fickle, your mental is not together. So I was in a very, very bad headspace. I was in a bad financial space. I was angry at God. I was angry at the church because I felt like all they wanted me to do was come and sing, preach, and perform. I was done.
I guess like checking on who you were and how you were doing.
They wanted to know what, most people reached out for what they could get from me, not what they could do for me. But I also have to say this as well. I kept it hid, because I didn't want anyone to know. But I felt like, God, all these deep and spiritual prophesying people, can't nobody see behind this mask that I have on? Can't nobody see that I'm faking the funk?